Our scripture today comes to us from Matthew 9. As we read it, I'll be reading the words on the screen in yellow and invite you to read aloud together the words in light print. As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," he told him, and Matthew got up and followed him.
While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples.
When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?"
On hearing this, Jesus said, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick.
But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." I suggested last week that as individuals, as congregation, we should consider living life on purpose, which requires us to make decisions individually, as families, as congregations. I suggested what is a fairly well known and copywritten concept of how to make a decision using their anagram for the word decide. With the D suggesting we need to define the problem, the goal, the purpose, the dream, the hope, the challenge. Define it. Then we need to make sure that we establish the criteria. Are we needing to solve this problem in a day, a week, a month, a year, a lifetime? Do we have $1 or $1 million? Are we doing it alone or do we have help? What are the criteria? To then consider all the alternatives with my suggestion that particularly we focus a great deal of time on the alternatives that we don't like, because it forces us to open our minds and to realize that maybe the filters we apply are the problem. You then identify the best option. You then develop and implement a plan. All right? Rather than charging forward, all passionate and excited, you develop a plan. And rather than talk about a plan and what someday you hope you might maybe do, you actually implement it. And then finally evaluating the progress, deciding whether this actually was the best option, how it might be improved, or whether it's time to set it aside. And in that first step of trying to simply define the problem, the challenge, the goal, the hope, the identity, the purpose, we reflected upon Jesus calling his first 4 disciples. 4 fishermen, 4 young men working in their father's business, 4 common middle-class laborers, people that the chief priests and the scribes and the well-educated elite probably did not think much of. In fact, it's likely they would be considered those country bumpkins who would follow anybody who has a good line. And yet Jesus started with these country bumpkins. We thought, perhaps at least as a beginning, maybe we define our purpose, our identity, our goal is to simply do as they did and just follow Jesus, to recognize his authority, to be enraptured by his vision and his passion, and to follow him. This week we see another step forward. He's calling another disciple. And if you were a Pharisee, a scribe, a chief priest, one of the well-educated, elite, traditional thinkers, this was worse than those four country bumpkins that he called. In fact, even for those people who might have been inclined to support Jesus, this was trouble, because he calls Matthew, he calls a tax collector, he calls one of his fellow Jews who's working for the Romans, one among several who are not known simply because they're taking our good money to pay those soldiers who are occupying our land and telling us what to do and brutalizing us. But they're also known to be liars and cheaters and robbers. So his own people might very well have considered him to be worse than the Romans that he supported through his efforts. People have all kinds of issues with taxes and government and the IRS. We have a hard time understanding that they help provide the funding for all of the things that we expect in our life from our country. But even with whatever negative feelings we may have, it's nothing in our lives can compare to one of our own robbing from us to pay our oppressors. That's Matthew. And that's the next guy on Jesus' list. If you ever doubt that somehow you could possibly be someone that Jesus wants, remember Matthew. Because there's no way any of your failures or flaws or weaknesses are on a par with him. Jesus saw in him someone who had gifts, someone who had potential, someone who could help make a difference in pursuing his goals, his mission, his purpose. And Jesus looks at us and sees gifts that we don't see, and sees potential that we might even run away from, and sees hopes and dreams that can be achieved if we will simply stand up and follow him. What's interesting in this story, as it turns out, Jesus says, Matthew, come follow me. And then apparently Jesus walks right up to Matthew's house. Hey, let's have a party. Let's gather all your people together. Let's just see what happens. Apparently a rather eclectic group, because it seems that Pharisees knew about it. And the way sniveling, conniving people will, they don't go to Jesus right now, they go to his disciples. Why does your teacher eat with those people? Because the Pharisees were very clear. Those people are the ones that we avoid. Those people are unclean, dirty, unworthy, unrespected. Those people are the curse of our society. those people are not worth our time and are really too dirty to associate with. We might get it on our clothes. I really don't think I'm exaggerating. What's he doing eating with those people? You know, you probably heard it has been a fairly well-repeated metaphor for Christianity and what often happens among any kind of organization, group of people. But for Christians in particular, the concept that God looked out upon us and loved us and invited us into his kingdom. And we go and we enter the door, and once we arrive, something happens. And before you know it, the next thing, we're standing at the door being gatekeepers, trying to decide whether the next people coming in are worthy enough to enter. The people who were invited and allowed in by the grace of God now get screened by the folks inside. And if you take a good, honest look at Christianity as it's developed over recent centuries and throughout history, there's certainly a lot of that going on. Somehow we were taught, oh, you were invited into the kingdom of God because of God's amazing grace. But once you get in, you be careful about who you associate with. You be careful about who you let into your society. You be careful about who you let into your church. You be careful about who you help and how you help them. Because certainly God only wants you to be around and to help people like you who are righteous and who understand what God's people are like. Jesus says, you don't get it at all, do you? The doctor comes to help the sick. Some of us might have been in health situations in the past. You know, for the most part today, you make appointments. You make appointments often weeks or months in advance. You make appointments scheduled for 11 so that maybe you actually see the doctor at 11:45. Gone, for the most part, are the days where people just show up and it's a first come, first served basis. And so that when one person has been served, someone just stands or reads out over a microphone the simple word next. We may still find it at the Motor Vehicles Bureau or some of the various service organizations, maybe down where we get the oil changed or the tires rotated. Next. And then we serve whoever that is, right? Who's next? Jesus serves who's next. He goes and he gathers with people and he receives them for who they are and he discovers their need, establishes their brokenness, and offers healing and help and hope, compassion and care. Almost none of them need judgment. Wisdom, encouragement. No one needs judgment. No one needs to be saying, whoa, I said next, but not you. You go ahead and step outside. We'll take this one over here. We like the way he's dressed. Oh, we don't like your illness. We don't like your trouble. We don't like your condition. You go someplace else. We're taking these people who are kind of more qualified for us. Jesus says, next. And with Matthew, he's already working with the scum of the earth, as the world would see him, as his own people would see him. And it doesn't seem to matter to Jesus at all. In fact, if you think about it, perhaps one of the reasons he called Matthew to begin with was to have access to Matthew's people. First of all, show everyone that I'm ready to call anyone and help them use their gifts in service to the kingdom of God. But hey, you know, one of those gifts might be the folks with whom they associate. It gives me an in with the people I want to help most. As a doctor, it shows me where to find the broken and the wounded. As we are, as a congregation, deciding our purpose, our goal, our identity, our ministry, it seems to have been divine providence that pulled certain people together at a certain time with certain facilities, certain potentials, and among the experiences that have been poured upon us in the last year or so was this opportunity to explore mutual ministry. God gave us a real treat because we were invited to consider how we can be part, in the sense of leaders, in trying to build a coalition of community resources and community people to address the real needs and the brokenness of our community, to find out how we can focus and be a physician. Not only to individuals, but to individuals who are part of our community, and all of us need to be whole. The program, The Divine Calling, came with perks, because not only will we help you think it through and help support you as you develop ideas, but we've got money. They know how to speak our language. They got money, and they say, hey, here's a grant for you to pursue this. Yeah, it's a matching grant, but it's money. If you'll pursue it, if you'll think about it, if you'll pray about it, if you'll work about it hard enough to try to come up with a vision, a possibility, a realistic approach to make a difference by drawing resources together. It's a genius idea, a rare and tremendous opportunity. And God invited us into all of that, and people have been working really very hard. Going to meetings, learning, trainings, trying to figure out the program, trying to figure out mutual ministry, trying to figure out what this community needs, trying to figure out where we would fit in, what we have to offer, how we can coalesce the different resources, and it seems to be leading us very clearly to an expanded concept of what we'd already identified as the opportunity for recovery ministry. To reach out and to find some way to welcome our brothers and sisters who have struggled with addiction, who've broken the law and have suffered consequences, incarceration, who have broken their families and experienced powerful pain and inflicted some suffering, to help welcome our brothers and sisters in that particular painful situation, to help ease their reentry into the community. In some very simple ways, just by being a resource for various entities in the community. Hey, you need help with this, we can send you here. You need help with that? Oh, here's the folks to call. You need help with this? Well, we can support you. Just generally, anybody who would call upon us, anybody who would know that we exist. But then the vision seems to be developing into, yes, that, but then to also help develop for the community a model for particularly reaching out to sponsor, to support one family at a time. The offender, since we like to label everybody, and the offender's family. The brother or sister and all of those who surround them. Developing ways to not only offer that general support, but some hands-on help, some financial support, trying to walk that fine line between being helping and not being enabling, which I assure you we are considering very seriously. Willing to stand up and take the risk, and yeah, it's a risk, to focus our attention, our time, our love, our grace, and some of our money on those people. Why would you want to help those people? There are a lot of people who have not broken the law. Why don't you help them first? Why are you helping those people? A lot of their pain and suffering is self-inflicted. And they've hurt a lot of people in the process. The reason they have a broken family now is because of the choices they've made. Why not help the more righteous, the people who dress like us and talk with us and have problems we understand? I tell you, it's an incredibly natural question. Why help those people? Now, for some fool like me, I could honestly be happy with the answer, well, because that's the people that Jesus helped. But that's certainly not always convincing. That's the people that Jesus helped. These are the people who need the help. And by the grace of God, it seems that we have the gifts, the potential, and the possibility, and the love, and the grace to provide that help. Why help those people? Because we can. Because Jesus did it. Because we're Christians. Because God loves us all. And we are here to bring healing. Healing. Again, a fool like me would love nothing more for this ministry to develop, to become known, and to have people out there buzzing with, what kind of fools are they to help those people? Because by the grace of God, I don't ever want to please the Pharisees. It would be lovely to be known as those fools who follow Jesus. Still a lot for us to develop, details to work out. We're getting down to where we have to start putting things on paper. We need your prayers. We'll need your support. We'll need your understanding. We'll need your questions. We'll need your doubts. We'll need your advice. We'll need your love and your grace and your wisdom and your experience. I said, I think God looked down upon us and said, this is the right group of people in the right place at the right time to do this for me. And he didn't mean just a few of us. And he didn't mean those who were jumping on board excited. He meant the people who scratched their heads too. And the people who ask questions, and the people people who are resistant to getting on board. Because the one thing I think that each of you can agree with is that God has done something special in bringing us together. And next, we just simply hope to find out, to discover, to see God's vision, and to move forward so that we can do what God sees in us. Next, let us pray. We have always been grateful, God, humbled, amazed when you've called us into your service. We've always been thrilled and satisfied, experiencing even your glory when we have helped make a difference in someone's life because you called us and you helped us find compassion and wisdom and care. And even though it's true we have plenty of our own problems, and yeah, we may have already given at the office, but we are still alive, and we are still together, and we are still yours, and we seek to serve you. Give us the wisdom and the vision, oh God. Help us find the joy of being yours, and to pass that along. In Jesus' name.